It's Katie Crysdale here from Lakeview Aquatic Consultants. Welcome back, or welcome if you are new. I'm continuing our National Lifeguard series talking about different topics that can help you be a better National Lifeguard candidate or even a better lifeguard on the pool deck. If you're not located in Canada and you're not a National Lifeguard, please continue to watch because there's still really good information I'm going to be sharing in this video. When I was thinking about the next topic to record in my lifeguard series, the first thing that came to mind was missing person search. I know what you might be thinking, missing person search? Shouldn't we be prioritizing more, quote, important skills like spinals or submerged victims or distressed non-swimmers? Why does she care about missing person search? What I can tell you from my last 10 plus years as a National Lifeguard instructor, National Lifeguard instructor trainer, and 20 plus years as a National Lifeguard on pool decks in Ontario and Alberta, missing person search is an extremely important skill that not everybody has competency in. The first time you do a missing person search and maybe it doesn't go so well, you realize just how much there is room for improvement. That's what I'm going to be talking about in today's video, how to do a better missing person search, whether you are an NL candidate, an NL on pool decks, or even an NLI who is looking to better teach this topic. A quick reminder that my personal opinions in this video are not endorsed by or supported by Life Saving Society, not by my branch, which is Alberta and the Northwest Territories, and not by any other branches here in Canada. These are my opinions only based on my experience teaching NL as well as being an NL the last 20 years. So let's get into it. At the end of your National Lifeguard Original course, you need to be capable of organizing and leading a missing person search. This is a very basic skill all lifeguards will probably use. In my career, there have been many missing person searches. The ability to collect important information and organize a search as part of a team or to be a leader in this environment is very, very important. And it's not a skill that comes easily. In the National Lifeguard lesson plans for Alberta and the Northwest Territories, missing person search is a 1 hour topic. I personally like to allocate more time, and I also make an effort to split it up over several days. As a quick reminder, when you're a new NLI, you are required to follow the branch NL lesson plans very strictly to make sure you cover all of the lessons, content, award guide items. As you become more experienced, you are tailoring that lesson plan to the candidates, to the facility, to the workplace environment after they have achieved mastery. Missing person search is definitely an area I have found teaching dozens of National Lifeguard courses. We do need to spend more time because usually what happens is we start out by doing an ad hoc missing person search. It goes very poorly. Then I teach the candidates how to do a better search, how to design a better search. But then I want to reinforce that learning and give them an opportunity to do it again and actually be successful. So that ends up taking more than 1 hour, but I split it up over several days. I have definitely had classes who in their do-over are still struggling with their missing person search, and we have to do a second do-over or a third do-over. I build that time into my class because it is important candidates leave with an ability to organize and lead a missing person search. That's what I really want to talk about in this video, tips and strategies to lead a missing person search. As I said, the first thing I normally do is an ad hoc missing person search. Whether we are hiding a toy like Elmo, whether we have the capacity to hide a student, or if I have a instructor candidate who is being mentored, maybe there's a staff member like a lifeguard, they're on off rotation from the pool deck, as much as possible hiding an actual person in the aquatic facility and then giving your class, your candidates, the opportunity to go and find them. I do not give any directives the first time. They decide how to do the missing person search. Generally speaking, it doesn't work out very well because there are conflicting personalities, conflicting ideas about how to run the search, different opinions about what areas of the pool are actually open to the person hiding. If I'm a female, I shouldn't go in the men's bathroom, or we shouldn't go in the janitorial room or the pool mechanical room. There's a lot of assumptions that occur, but I consider that part of the discovery learning process. I allocate 10, 12, maybe 15 minutes for the group dynamics to come into play, and it may not work out. It may be delayed. It may not be very effective. Then I bring everyone back together. We debrief and talk about what didn't work. I don't provide the solutions. I ask the candidates to tell me what did not work. Usually they have a very good sense from their interpersonal dynamics. Susie took over, but she didn't communicate with Tom. Matt went off and did his own thing, and he didn't let us know what he was doing. Jim went and searched the male change rooms again, even though John had already done so, sharing what worked and what didn't. Usually somebody will be left behind, areas of the facility that are not checked, substantial delays. Also, there's usually not enough emphasis on checking the pool basins themselves when our number one job as a lifeguard is to prevent drowning. We always want to check the bottom of the pools. After that ad hoc search that maybe doesn't go so well, I have the groups sit down either in pairs or teams or even individually, depending on the size of the class. The candidates write out in step form, like a procedure, how would they do over that same missing person search? What steps would they write in terms of areas to search, communication tools, parameters, or information they didn't have? And then we take time as a class to compare those procedures, because each lifeguard is going to have their own opinions, their own style, and there's nothing wrong with that. We don't want to take just one person's perspective. As you can understand, this exercise does take some time. I have to be careful as an instructor to make sure I have the time to do this. Sometimes I've had the candidates hand in those procedures. I'm not grading them, but just getting a sense of how the teams did or individually what their thoughts are. Other times I've shuffled them into a pile and randomly picked one out and had someone else, so not the writer of that missing person procedure, someone else then follows the instructions of that procedure and leads the class through doing it again. People see how vague their instructions are to be followed by someone else. Potentially incomplete thoughts, shorthand. It's not always easy to write instructions for someone else. I think hiding places are very, very important to the success of this activity. If you make it too easy, it is not realistic to what lifeguards are going to experience on the pool deck. When I've had kids go missing, thankfully in my career, it was never anything criminal. They were homesick, scared, curious, wandered into storage rooms, play areas, the lobby. If you can have somebody hide in the equipment room behind pool noodles, if you have large lockers and it's safe to do so, somebody could hide in a locker. The easiest one is to lock the bathroom stall and put your feet up on the toilet. I really want to stress for those of you who are National Lifeguard instructors that this is an important part of teaching this skill. If you make it too easy, a Where's Waldo printout, it's not realistic to what guards are going to see on the pool deck. Later in the course, we hide another person and they can either go off of their missing person procedure or have facilitated them recognizing where their own gaps were in achieving these outcomes before. Hopefully, by the second or third or fourth round, it is very quick 4-5-minute search. They're able to locate the person or the object. The reason I'm making this video is because it has been my experience, even after teaching this skill. I've worked with different lifeguards who don't have the leadership or communication or planning that goes into running an effective missing person search, which then delays the outcome of finding the child. That happened at least in my career at my very first job with a young boy who was missing before swim lessons. He was brought by one parent. He was supposed to be picked up by another parent. That search took almost 2.5 hours because of very poor communication. The same thing at the outdoor summer camp I worked at. This was a very large property with hundreds of kids and staff members. We had very detailed search procedures, but there was a delay in finding the child and ending the search because there wasn't good communication between the camp counselor who found the child and the rest of the staff. That is definitely something that we want to avoid. When I'm in the classroom, I talk about what information goes into an effective missing person search. I do want to remind you this is a topic covered in your National Lifeguard Alert Manual. The alert is the textbook we use during the National Lifeguard original course here in Canada. area. Chapter 4 is entitled Lifeguarding Skills and Procedures. In my edition of the textbook, pages 54 and 55 talk about a missing person search and procedure. If your candidates do not have their alert guide with them, you could also have printed or photocopied versions of the missing person procedure from the facility that is hosting the course. Or I am a contract aquatic leadership instructor. I go to a lot of different facilities in Alberta and teach these courses. I will always check in the emergency response binder if there is a missing person search procedure, because there is a high degree of likelihood some of the candidates taking the class at this facility hope to work at this facility. So I want to give them the opportunity to see that procedure if it is available. But some facilities do not have an official procedure, so I have supplied my own. Within that procedure, there are key pieces of information. We need a detailed description of the missing person. What do they look like? What were they wearing? Where was the last place they were seen? Their age? Do they know how to swim? What were they doing prior to you noticing them missing? Getting as much information as possible and immediately checking the basins. If you are the first guard who ends up talking to the parent, caregiver, or friend who reports someone missing, you are staying with them, getting that information about who they are, what they look like, where they were last seen, and then immediately checking the basins to confirm there has not been a drowning incident. At that stage, you do need to determine, is this a minor or a major emergency? Am I able to walk around the facility effectively with this reporting person, or do I need to involve other guards to help me, which may necessitate closing the pool? Not saying a missing child might not be always a major emergency, but the level of staffing and the size of your facility will dictate how quickly can we eliminate the pool environment? How quickly do we need to get other departments or facilities involved? Do we need to go check the weight room, party room, change rooms? What other areas adjacent or around the building need to be verified in case somebody wandered off? There's specific things also often missing when I am evaluating missing person search as part of the National Lifeguard scenarios in a National Lifeguard original course or National Lifeguard research. In this video, I'm not going to rehash all of the specifics of evaluating National Lifeguard situations. I have a complete video you can go watch. We go through all of the must-sees, the performance criteria from the National Lifeguard Award Guide regarding scenarios or situations. In this particular video, I do want to take a couple minutes and talk about the missing person search performance criteria. That tells you how important this skill is. You literally cannot pass your National Lifeguard original 40-hour course if you cannot organize or lead a missing person search. It is that important. It's not just a lesson plan, it's also an actual award guide item. As a quick reminder, there are certain topics we teach you in the National Lifeguard course that are more for information purposes or they can be applied in a couple of different environments or settings. But the missing person search is itself its own evaluated item, which tells you how important it is. A reminder, the National Lifeguard Award Guide is the final evaluation or performance criteria for all of the skills in the National Lifeguard course. Facility search is item 10 in the award guide. We are talking about the National Lifeguard pool option. We start out with the item description. The description is to demonstrate an effective search of the aquatic facility for a missing person as both a member and a leader of a lifeguard team. I talked about this in one of my other videos. You need to be able to give and receive communication. The receiving communication is often one of the challenges. Lifeguards have a tendency to walk into an environment and think, I'm the first guard responding, I'm in charge, I tell everyone what to do. But there is equally valuable participation from guard 2, guard 3, guard 4. If other tasks do not get done, the search, rescue, or the scenario is not going to be successful. A missing missing person search is not just about being the leader, it is also about being a follower of instructions, directions, and teamwork. And that is a huge piece in lifeguarding that I will chat about in a lifeguard communication video. The purpose of this item is to ensure lifeguards understand the principles underlying missing person procedures and develop the skills required to conduct an effective search. One of the most frustrating things as a National Lifeguard instructor when I'm evaluating a search the candidates are doing is when they lack urgency. They don't take it seriously. Katie's just hidden a doll. Nobody's actually at risk. We need to simulate that somebody is actually missing. It is very important, even if you don't know what to do in a search, you should still have some sense of urgency. That doesn't mean panic, hyperventilate. That means, what can I do? Let me stop and think. It's about always acting intentionally and with purpose, even if you don't have a bigger plan. The learning outcome of this item is candidates demonstrate ability to conduct an effective missing person search in both a leadership role and as a member of a team. Effective is very important relative to what I just said about timeliness. It's not about finishing the search in 3 or 4 minutes. If you have a 200,000 square foot recreation center, or when I was at a summer camp that was 10 acres, you can't finish the search in 2 minutes. The point is to make sure the search is effective in terms of covering every area, not having to go back and research or not duplicating efforts because of poor communication. Effectiveness includes, if I'm checking the bathroom, the restroom, I'm checking in each stall. I'm not just eyeballing under the stalls when a kid could be scared and they could have their knees up on the toilet, or checking a room where the lights are turned off, or checking under tables or behind equipment. That is the key piece, in my opinion, about being effective. It's not just a lazy, oh, I checked in this room, but I didn't check behind the door or in the closet. With the actual must-see items, the first one is immediate search of water area and the bottoms of all pools. Our role as a lifeguard is to prevent drowning, fatal or otherwise. If we are presented with a situation where there is anybody missing in the pool area, even if they know how to swim, we should immediately walk the perimeter of all the basins, look down at the bottom of the pool, and confirm that they are not there. If we cannot do that, we need to clear the pool, the other swimmers to vacate the pool so we can see to the bottom, or whether we need more capacity from our colleagues to cover a large area. If you have a wave pool, for example, you're going to need more than one person to walk the perimeter. If you have a water park with multiple slides, or you have a building with multiple areas, you're likely going to need people to help you, which may necessitate clearing the pool so that we can take those other lifeguards to go look in other areas. The second must-see criteria: complete description of missing person obtained. Name, age, size, clothing, with other key information such as where they were last seen. I had a 4-year-old white boy who's up to my waist in my swim lesson 10 minutes ago. He has blue goggles and green swim shorts and blonde hair. He does not know how to swim. I saw him arrive, but I don't know where he went, and I'm concerned. Key information, and then sharing that information with the other members of the search party, the other members of the lifeguard team, is very, very important. The third must-see criteria is a lifeguard remains with the reporting party. Imagine a parent reporting their child missing, and they're very, very upset. They might go into shock, panic, hyperventilate, pass out. They also know what the person looks like, so you do need to keep them with you, escort them, ask them to walk around with you, and complete the search. If they're very panicked, this is a constructive way to keep them calm. Don't sit them in a chair in an office and wait for you. Have them actively participate and help you. Fourth must-see criteria is accurate and timely relay of missing person description to other lifeguards and bystanders. This is where the game broken telephone comes into play. If I don't give specific information like the missing person's name, gender, appearance, or ethnicity to my colleagues, we can waste time. That is exactly what happened at my first job. There was confusion about the appearance of the missing boy. He was in the lobby the whole time, but the description was given to the lobby staff incorrectly. The fifth must-see performance criteria for a missing person search is is a systematic, thorough search of the facility, starting in the area where the missing person was last seen or the area of greatest danger if not seen. I understand the focus is the pool environment, change rooms, equipment room, lifeguard office. Eventually, once the National Lifeguard participants have achieved mastery of that area, I would extend my practice searches to also include selected dry environments. Should we check the emergency exits out to the parking lot, the party room, the dance studio, the lobby? Depending on the time we have, the number of candidates participating in the search, the mastery I've seen demonstrated, or the learning we still need to do, I will incorporate that into the search. I've definitely seen people assume, well, the kid wouldn't be in the janitorial room. Why would they? We can't make that assumption. Another must-see is appropriate and effective direction of bystanders where applicable. This could be the person who's reporting the person missing, other colleagues like lifeguards, dry administrative staff, facility cleaners, your boss, the manager, frontline staff, customer service representatives, maintenance, swim coaches, anybody else who's around, even parents of other children can assist you, but they need good information to act on. Otherwise, it's not helpful. The must-see that comes next is good teamwork. This is articulated as backup, follow-up, and crowd control. You need to have a method to communicate between the lifeguards who are doing the search, whether that is walkie-talkies, a PA system, shouting across the pool deck, or everyone go search your area and then come back to the lifeguard office to report back to me. I'm going to stay here the whole time and I'm going to track the areas that were searched. How do you know the search hasn't ended? The child hasn't been found if you're off searching and nobody told you the search is over. Do you have something anonymized on the PA system like code Elmo to let people know who are not lifeguarding what is happening? The last must-see item is reassurance, assistance, and direction to further authority for the person reporting the incident. If we've cleared the building, we've taken half an hour, and we still can't find them, do we call 911? What does that look like depending on the situation? If it was a school group visiting, do you call the principal, the parents? What is the time when we need to level up our resources because this is a serious situation, especially when it comes to minor children under the care of other people like camp counselors or teachers or swim instructors? We don't just keep doing the search on and on and on. The last thing I need to cover as part of this video is a quick reminder that every item in the award guide always has notes. These notes are very important for the National Lifeguard instructor to read and interpret what we see in terms of the results candidates present to us. This is the same whether it's a National Lifeguard original course, National Lifeguard research. The notes include the candidate, like i.e. the National Lifeguard candidate, the person who wants to be a National Lifeguard, must understand that missing person procedures are or should be part of every facility's standard operating procedures. So hopefully once you get a job, it's at an aquatic facility that is somewhat organized in terms of emergency response and preparedness. There is some sort of procedure written out, an employee training manual, onboarding checklist. You should have some sort of template that you can follow, but not every facility is perfect. Another note says in the leadership role, candidates should demonstrate quick, intelligent decisions with clear, concise communication and appropriate delegation of tasks. Missing person searches are a great opportunity for people who like to be leaders to learn to delegate. In most aquatic environments, there are many different areas that need to be searched, and one person cannot do it alone. How that delegation happens in terms of communication and leadership is a very important skill. Respectfully, it is one of the reasons I have had candidates over my 10 years of teaching, they have failed the missing person search. It's not the only thing they failed, but it was one of the pieces that showcased to me that their lifeguard communication, their lifeguard teamwork was not yet where it needed to be because they didn't take the search seriously, but they also didn't take the process of working with their fellow lifeguards seriously. The third note is stress that appropriate lifeguard communication, whether with patrons or fellow staff, is always professional and respectful. So there is a tendency for people's heart rates to get up, stress level to get up when a child is missing. You're very excited or panicked, the adrenaline gets running. We want to stay calm, cool, collected, clear in our communication, concise. Search procedures should cause minimal disruption to facility operations. If we have a reason to clear the pool, we should clear the pool without hesitation. But in terms of other areas like a concession or food court, a weight room, a dance studio, we don't want to create panic in the facility or have other people interfere by overtly publicizing that there is an issue, particularly if we're concerned if crime has been committed. As much as possible, we are continuing normal pool operations, normal facility operations, unless there is something to justify, for example, a lockdown, closing the exterior doors, restricting people leaving. There may be situations or environments that's justified, but generally speaking, we want to make sure we are focused on the search and not getting distracted by overcomplicating matters. The penultimate note is that it may not be necessary to clear the pool for an effective search of the water. Any method that can confirm the victim is not in the water is acceptable. If you have lane swim with 3 people, you do not need to clear the pool. You can clearly see to the bottom in all areas of the water column. It is not necessary to clear the pool. If you have a wave pool environment with hundreds of guests and floats and rafts, you may need to clear the pool, especially if the wave machine is on. Same thing with a hot tub with jets, a lazy river with a current, a swim meet environment during warm up. That good decision making and judgment is part of the lifeguard skills that we are evaluating. As long as you can justify to me as a national lifeguard why you did or did not do something, there was a thought process, you were not just blindly following, that is going to lead to your success in a national lifeguard course as well as on the pool deck. It's not being disrespectful and asking why. It's thinking critically, what is the best course of action in this environment, in this situation, with my skill set at the present time. The last note is the candidate should simulate contact with emergency services if necessary. If we are calling 911, why are we calling 911? Somebody was coughing, they are 12 years old, they accidentally ingested peanut butter served during lunch. I need an ambulance because we don't have an EpiPen, or they're known to be allergic to peanuts and we know that they're going to need medical help. One of the other things I wanted to mention, if we are keeping the reporting party with us, such as mom or dad who's reported the child missing, we also can take advantage of their knowledge of their child. Where would they have gone? Or what is their favorite area of the facility? Or where do you normally congregate? There's lots of specific questions we can ask that may inform our search. Not that we don't have to search the whole building, but maybe we start in areas that are known to the child. That is everything I wanted to say about the missing person search in the National Lifeguard course here in Canada. I switched hats a little bit in this video. I covered the perspective if you are going to be a National Lifeguard candidate, if you are already a National Lifeguard working on pool decks, if you are a National Lifeguard instructor, what are some better ways that you can teach or facilitate this information? If you're not a National Lifeguard at all, if you're a lifeguard in another country, another area, I hope this video was helpful to you in terms of how we can better facilitate this skill and develop it. I strongly feel this is an area a lot of lifeguards would benefit from more training and improving their effectiveness. Like I said at the start of this video, when I've been thinking about the topics I want to cover on YouTube to make people better lifeguards, missing person search immediately came to mind. Thank you so much for watching this lengthy video. If there's anything you feel I missed, anything you want to add, please go ahead and drop your comments down below. I appreciate you being here, and I'll catch you in the next video.